Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure I am up. Sorry, this is somewhat of a routine when I do live videos, just making sure that people could actually hear me. Playback good. And I'm seeing myself moving and shaking. It's slightly distracting. So guys, hopefully, just did a show earlier, and so just in case if no one saw that particular show, people did see this show, but in case somebody's seen the show that didn't see the last show, just a few updates of what's coming up. Caitlin Johnson is going to be here tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I believe, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Peridium Research, Steve Bassett is going to be here on Thursday. He's going to be here at 4. So I'm trying to keep these things in my head. I spoke to Cynthia McKinney. She says she's open to coming on to the show, in addition to speaking to someone with Democratic Socialists of America. I have a story coming up about Democratic Socialists of America that's going to annoy the shit out of you, of the way they're treating the guy in Virginia, the DSA candidate in Fairfax, Virginia, that got elected into office without the help of any kind of party apparatus. He did it on his own. I'm going to show you how some of the other Democratic delegates are treating the guy. But for this story, Jeremy Corbyn. Now, I've made no bones, or I haven't hidden the fact that I like Jeremy Corbyn. I think the man is fucking awesome. And I think that some of the stuff he's going through and encountering in Britain, we're having a similar here. It's just, I always say, a shade different here in the United States. Recently, in the same way that they've been using this kind of Russia nonsense to tar Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein, essentially anything that's on the left, they've been using this to say, you guys were manipulated by Vladimir Putin. You guys were manipulated by Putin. You guys were manipulated by Russia. Bernie Sanders' campaign really didn't have a campaign. I mean, ultimately, it was just Vladimir Putin pushing the table chairs. Black Lives Matter wasn't upset because cops were shooting people in the face and walking. Muslims weren't upset because the person who the Democratic Party put up for office essentially was in this kind of pro-regime change policies, particularly in Muslim countries. These people weren't upset for none of that. People who were supporting Sanders weren't upset because Sanders was cheated, because the person who they wanted to be in the process were cheated. None of that is true. What's true is Vladimir Putin was maneuvering the chairs. He was putting out Twitter and Facebook ads. And those Twitter and Facebook ads undermine democracy itself. This is what they're pushing in America. It is nonsense. We are supposed to believe, when studies looked at this stuff, actual studies, not these people who are looking for some kind of paradigm to explain why Hillary Clinton could lose to a maniac. No, when you look at the studies show that the impact was little to non-existent. Not just that, half of the Facebook ads happened after the election. So you're telling me that something that didn't have an effect on the election, that most of, or had more than half, happened after the election itself. Facebook and Twitter ads was supposed to have more of a weight than all of the campaign ads that the candidates were putting out, all of the campaign stops that the candidates were doing. Each time the candidate went on to somewhere like Jimmy Kimmel or Ellen, all of these shows, all of the billions of dollars, the $1 billion that Hillary Clinton had in her war chest, not to mention one Democrat after the next screaming vote Hillary, one newspaper after the next screaming vote Hillary, one television personality after the next screaming vote Hillary, Obama jumping from state to state screaming, protect my legacy, put this woman in office. We're supposed to believe that a few Facebook and Twitter ads had enough weight to undermine all of that. And the answer to that is no, it didn't. It's ridiculous. They're looking for anything that they can cling on to. And in trying to look for anything they can cling on to, they want to hit the left on this. Because ultimately they had two problems. You had this anti-establishment fervor, this kind of populist fervor that was taking over and cannibalizing both parties. Now, how do you deal with this from the standpoint of Democrats? You know you cheated your particular candidate, the person who was in your office or who was running in your party's primaries. You cheated that guy. You covered the cheating by getting that guy to come out and actually say, yes, there's validity to this particular story. Now, he tries to make the caveat of this happened after the election or after my campaign, but nobody is going to remember that caveat. Right now, you have people saying that Bernie Sanders and Vladimir Putin were working in cahoots. Vladimir Putin was essentially pushing Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein's campaign to Donald Trump's. Now you're even hearing Bernie Sanders and Trump. Bernie Sanders and Trump. Bernie Sanders responded to this by giving it credibility. In Britain, Jeremy Corbyn responded to this by saying this is utter hogwash and I'm coming after you guys for doing this. Let me show you his response to this, because I love his response to this. And I know this is, I spent too much time on that point, but let me show his response. Because I want to show something that happened to Corbyn.
Wild and entirely false. He seems to believe I kept him informed about what Margaret Thatcher had for breakfast, and says he, the last few days, the Sun, the Mail, the Telegraph, the Express have all gone a little bit James Bond. They've found a former Czechoslovakian spy whose claims are increasingly wild and entirely false. He seems to believe I kept him informed about what Margaret Thatcher had for breakfast, and says he was responsible for either Live Aid or the Mandela concert, or maybe both. It's easy to laugh, but something more serious is happening. Publishing these ridiculous smears that have been refuted by Czech officials shows just how worried the media bosses are by the prospect of a Labour government. They're right to be. Labour will stand up to the powerful and corrupt and take the side of the many, not the few. A free press is essential for democracy, and we don't want to close it down. We want to open it up.
I'm putting this video at the bottom so you can see it for yourself. For all intents and purposes, they try to accuse Jeremy Corbyn of being this kind of Czech spy, essentially a communist spy. So in the United States, it's Bernie Sanders who's working with Vladimir Putin in Russia. And over in the UK, it's Jeremy Corbyn was essentially assisting communist spies in the UK. Communist spies. Now, the interesting part in his response was not backing it up, not giving it any validity at all, and taking it head on, saying we're going after the media bosses because they're terrified of a Labour government, and they're right to be terrified of the Labour government. I fucking love that. I fucking love that. That's not I'm running for cover. That's not. Do you remember the Rorschach thing in Watchmen? There's a scene where Rorschach gets put in prison, and Rorschach is like, you guys, how did he say it? You guys think I'm in here with you? And he's screaming, you're in here with me. You're in here with me. He's making this point that you guys are coming after me over this ridiculousness. This has been disproven, and you still ran it anyway. They ran this story because they were terrified of what a Labour government is going to bring, and they're right to be terrified. I love that response. That is a response that I'm looking for in a person who's getting my support and getting my vote. No, I'm not in Britain. I'm just saying. That will be the response that I want. I want a response of strength when you're dealing in the face of ridiculousness and not necessarily giving it any validity at all. Now, one of a Cretan, a Tory, put out a tweet saying that Jeremy Corbyn was leaking secrets to communist spies. Tory. A Tory. Now, he put this out outright. Jeremy Corbyn leaked secrets to communist spies. Now, Jeremy Corbyn, again, didn't back down. He didn't cower. He didn't go and meet the press and shame himself and say that there's validity to the ridiculousness that these guys are putting out. He didn't do any of that. He said, you're either going to take that down or I'm going to sue you. It's your choice. Take it down or going to be sued. What took place? Ben Bradley is the troglodyte that put it up in the first place. Ben Bradley took it down, wrote an apology, and gave money to a soup kitchen. On 19th of February, I made a defamatory statement about Jeremy Corbyn. I have apologized to Mr. Corbyn, and here is the complete text of my apology. Oh, so embarrassed. That's so embarrassing. That's so embarrassing. So, explain to me. Explain to me, Ben Bradley. We're going to read your shameful, your apology. We're going to read you shaming yourself after a while. But explain to me. When you sent that tweet saying that Jeremy Corbyn was a communist spy, were you lying to your audience? Were you just outright completely lying? Because you can understand that if you took that down and you apologized, then that would indicate that you said something that you knew was full of shit. You knew you were lying to your audience. You were lying to all of those people, and now you're putting out a tweet saying I'm a liar. I'm a horrible person. I'm a cretin. I'm a troglodyte. I'm sorry I lied about him. I'm sorry I lied. Let's take a look at this statement. I find this to be amazing. It's like, why did you say it in the first place? Like, why are you going to say something that inflammatory that the guy is some kind of communist fucking spy? You have nothing to show for that. You pulled that out of your ass. And I love the fact that Corbyn didn't back up on this. He didn't back up on this. As opposed to the Jeremy Corbyn that's in the States. Fucking shaming himself. On February 19th, 2018, I made a serious defamatory statement on my Twitter account, Ben Bradley MP, about Jeremy Corbyn alleging he sold British secrets to communist spies. I have since deleted the defamatory tweet. I have agreed to pay an undisclosed substantial sum of money to a charity of Jeremy Corbyn's choice, and I will also pay his legal costs. Because Jeremy Corbyn was going to take him to court, and he was going to sue the shit out of him for saying some stupid shit like that. I fully accept that my statement was wholly untrue and false. He should just say, I'm a liar. I'm a Tory liar. This is the same guy who said that the poor should get vasectomies. So understand the quantity that you're dealing with here. I fully accept that my statement was wholly untrue and false. I accept that I caused distress and upset to Jeremy Corbyn by my untrue and false allegations, suggesting he had betrayed his country by collaborating with foreign spies. I am very sorry for publishing this untrue and false statement, and I have no hesitation in offering my unreserved and unconditional apology to Jeremy Corbyn for the distress that I have caused him. Ben the Cretin Bradley, MP. If you have to write a letter like that, that should say something about who you are as a person. That should say something about the quality of you as a human being. I understand that some of the stuff is politics, but you're saying that the guy was a goddamn communist spy, and I suspect part of that is because the guy calls himself a socialist, and he's devout socialist in this respects. So it's easy to say socialist, communist. See, the guy's a socialist, is a communist. He was given communist spies. He called himself a socialist. It makes perfect sense that he was selling secrets to communist spies. I like the fact that he didn't back up. I like the fact that he threatened litigation. I like the fact that he was willing to take this guy to court to make him say, I am sorry, I am a liar, I made this shit up. I love that. Absolutely love that. That's what I look for in my politicians. I like strength in my politicians. As opposed to the example that we have here in the United States. Fucking sad.
Americans know is that at the end of my campaign, when it appeared that Clinton was going to win, and certainly after she won the nomination, what the Russians were doing is flocking to Bernie Sanders' Facebook sites, and they were saying to Bernie Sanders supporters, as they were, by the way, to Black Lives Matter supporters, people who are fighting for social justice, as they were saying to the Muslim community, if you voted for Sanders, you have to understand Hillary Clinton is crazy, she's a murderer, she is terrible, all kinds of horrible, horrible things about Hillary Clinton. And it turns out that one of our social media guys in San Diego actually went to the Clinton campaign in September and said something weird is going on. Bernie's not in the campaign. Hundreds of these people are now coming onto his Facebook site. So I think we already knew that. It was an effort to undermine American democracy and to really say horrible things.
This is a Bernie Sanders hostage video. Bernie Sanders hostage video. That's what it looks like. It looks like it's a Bernie Sanders hostage video. They used this immediately to attack Jill Stein immediately after this particular conversation, which Bernie Sanders gave legitimacy to the ridiculousness that they're peddling. Understand, there was no impact on the election based on these ads. I've read the ads on the channel, the ads of stuff that other politicians were already saying. Zero impact on the elections. What did have an impact on the election was cheating the guy who's out here saying that somebody else was cheating him. I mean, this is fucking amazing. Now, the sad part about this is, for whatever reason Bernie Sanders feels he needs to do this, he wants to curry favor with, you know, these maniac killbots, or whether he wants to feel like he wants to ingratiate himself to the Democratic Party because he wants to run again in 2020. Whatever his reasoning for doing this, I have made the strident point that they're going to use this to attack him. They're going to say you were pushed by Vladimir Putin, you were pushed by Russia, that you and Trump were essentially used and wielded by foreign powers in order to undermine Hillary Clinton. none of the context that you added is going to be added into that, because those people are maniacs and they're looking for any paradigm of the world that would explain why Hillary Clinton could lose to Donald Trump. You just gave it to him. Nobody's going to care about your context, Sanders. What they're going to hear is Russia helped Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton would have won that race if it wasn't for Russia and Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders himself have come out and said Hillary Clinton shouldn't have had to run against Russia and Donald Trump. She shouldn't have had to run against both. Do you know, after he did this, after he shamed all these groups, after he smeared Black Lives Matter, after he smeared his own supporters, after he covered the DNC, essentially saying that the DNC was the one that cheated you. That's the, like, understand how Orwellian this is. They cheated him. And he's coming out saying that it was the Russians. There was no impact on the election. There was no impact on the election. What Bernie Sanders right here is talking about Facebook ads as compared to them actually rigging the process to cheat him. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. Do you know right after he did this, ads start coming out saying Bernie Sanders, helped by Russia, blames Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders blames Hillary Clinton. You will never get the credit that you're trying to get here. You will never carry the favor that you're trying to get here. And in the same way that Jeremy Corbyn looked at this and said, this is bullshit, I'm not going to play it in this particular game. If they're going to call me a communist or they're going to call me a communist traitor, I am going to push back on this narrative. I'm not going to necessarily just sit by and let this narrative overtake me in this way. You can learn something from your European counterpart, Sanders. You don't even have to go to Europe. You can learn something from Jill Stein on this front. It's fucking amazing. But nevertheless, I don't want to get too far from the point. My point is, fucking A, Jeremy Corbyn, ha, Ben Bradley, and shame on you, Bernie Sanders. That's my point. This is not a long one. This is an acknowledgement of sorts. Let's see, who's here? Who's here? Stephanie Chateau. I'm always defending you, Bernie, but can't excuse this. Lying out of worrying is what Trump wants is not a good strategy, just being truthful. Agreed. Agreed. Of everything that took place, I think this is the thing that worries me the most. This is the thing that worries me the most. Because it's, right now, they're attacking lefty journalists. Sites like TruthDig and Alternet, for the most part, have lost massive amounts of viewership once the algorithms have changed and the way that these guys have been going against this different media. There have been people at the Daily Beast talking about they should attack Medium articles, meaning they should take down lefty Medium articles on Medium. They are attacking the left and they're attacking the right because both of these things are anti-establishment. They want to maintain this kind of dominance of the center. They call it the center, but ultimately it's just corporate interests or corporate influence, this top 1% dominating the political apparatus, where you have these other ends of the process trying to take back this level of power that's associated with the political system. Strength is not a bad thing. There are some times where you do need to go along to get along, so don't misunderstand me. I get that. You know, you start your campaign, and as bad as it was to see Sanders endorse Hillary Clinton, at the very least, I can understand that. You're running in the campaign, you're running in the race, you say that, yes, I'm going to support the candidate. You, from the beginning of that particular process, you said what you were going to do, and you followed through with it. Fair enough. I didn't have to like it, but fair enough. This is different. This is different. You've, in this moment, allowed them to undermine what you yourself created. That's all. I mean, that's what it boils down to. You have all these hillbots who are out here now screaming about Trump and Russia and Sanders. Trump and Russia and Sanders. As if a bunch of Facebook and Twitter ads was the thing that was the distinguishing thing in this election. And that's the thing that undermined democracy. And they're using this because they want to undermine the legitimacy of Donald Trump in this case. What he doesn't realize, or what he's missing, is that he also delegitimizes himself in his own campaign. The same attacks that they're going to say about Trump and Russia are the same attacks they're going to use on you. The same attacks they're going to use on you. So, yeah. I didn't want to get too far into Trump on this. I wanted to focus more so on Jeremy Corbyn. This is the right way to deal with this. Don't take... If it's not true, don't take it on. Don't give it life. Don't give it legitimacy, because I swear to God, they're going to hit you with it. They're trying to hit Jeremy Corbyn with his narrative, and Jeremy Corbyn is like, fuck that. Not only am I not taking it, meaning not only am I not going to agree with this, not only am I not just going to sit this out, I am going to actively sue you for saying this. I'm going to force you to give money to a soup kitchen. Mind you, this is a Tory. Tory hate the poor, just like the conservatives in this country hate the poor for all intents and purposes. Man talking about poor should get vasectomies. I'm going to make you give to some needy cause. That's the other point. There's another picture with them trying to unseat that guy, Bradley. There's this kind of conference we're trying to unseat Bradley. That's the way to deal with this. The way to deal with this is through a certain level of strength and aggression. Being weak is not the way to deal with what's taking place in the States. Good job, Corbyn. Good job, Corbyn. That's my point. Good job, Corbyn. Bernie Sanders, not so much. Shame on you. Jill Stein trumps Bernie at any age. Jill Stein's response was the appropriate response. Honestly, it is. If your name is Bernie Sanders, you have two competitors. You should never forget that you have two competitors. The Democratic Party is not your friend, and you should not forget the fact that they are not your friend. Even if you want to run in the Democratic Party itself, the thing that made you, meaning the thing that made Sanders, was this idea of earnesty and honestness, this idea that the guy was above politics to some degree. This is not above politics. And the worst part about this is the people who actually back you up, the people who actually follow politics and pay attention to this, looks at this and say, wait a minute, what you're saying doesn't jive with reality. The earnest guy who's supposed to be the honest politician is now just being a politician. And is using to attack Trump. And it's not even a good attack. Facebook and Twitter ads. That blows me away. It blows me away that this is the conversation. Jonathan Meltdown. I really grew to like a Jew Baraka, as well as he's very on point. He is on point. He gave a speech at, I think it was the Left Forum. He was damn good. He was damn good. Unlikely ally. I don't think Bernie sold out at all. I think he is stupid as fuck about the Russia of foreign policy and social media. His domestic money out of politics, tax the rich, Medicare messaging has never faltered. That's true. Unlikely ally, I agree with you. I agree. I totally agree. Here's the thing. I've always made this point that you don't have to take anything away from somebody if you're going to criticize them. Like, I agree. I've never taken anything away from Sanders. In any video that I've ever done, if I'm bitching about something, I've always postulated you have to give him credit where credit is due, because he's woken a lot of people up. And from the standpoint of his domestic policy, it's the standpoint of this thing of not wanting to just topple democracies and all this other stuff. Yes, tax policy and all. I like Sanders as a candidate. But from a politics standpoint, this is weak. I'm sorry, this is weak. No, I don't think he's necessarily faltered on his domestic policy, but Jesus Christ, this Russia stuff is nonsense. Gordon DeMac. Let's see. What was it? It shifted on me. Oh, here we are. You might be underestimating just how switched on the UK public are now to the BS in the UK gutter press, Jamal. The tabloids can only preach to the choir. The rest of us know what is happening. And you know what? I think that's somewhat what's going on in the States too, but again, at a lesser degree. At a lesser degree. Like, you have, people call it woke. You know, it's like they've woken out of a dream. Like, holy shit, I didn't know this was going on. Even waking up to this issue of class and these type of conversations, they call it woke. You have a faction of the United States that is woke as fuck, as they call it. Woke as fuck. You have a faction that is not. You have a larger faction that is not. Now, you have a large faction of the United States that may believe that Russia has something to do with the election itself, but don't necessarily care. If that makes sense. It's like, yes, we think this is true because the media has been inundated with this and most of the people don't like Trump. But by the same token, so what? Don't we do the same thing? Now, that's I think the ridiculousness of the conversation Sanders is having here, though. We do the same thing. How can you bitch and moan about this? Like, I I'm fascinated by the level of hypocrisy that can take place in these conversations that people are having about this. It's like, even if you grant everything that they're saying, based on their own logic of the case, it had no impact on the election. The best case scenario is it had no impact on the election. Now, they're trying to get Jill Stein and Bernie Sanders to say, look, if you would have just gotten out of the race, wouldn't Hillary Clinton have had a better chance of winning, as if this was Hillary Clinton's election to win. It's nobody's election to win. The election is an election. They call it an election for a reason. If it was a coronation ceremony, they would call it a coronation ceremony. You either win it or you don't. She lost. Get over it. But in this case, we're screaming about Russia because they don't want to deal with the fact she lost. And this idea that bringing back status quo without doing anything is the point. Running out the clock. How can we run out the clock? We don't want to get anything done. We want to run out the clock. So that's what's taking place. I wish the public here was a little bit more aware, but I don't think they are. At least not yet. Because my fear is they're just going to run back into the arms of Democrats, and any leverage that they might have had is going to evaporate. What I wish, you have no idea, what I honest to God wish, was that the people who are in this kind of dim enter crowd, the people who think they're going to board the ship and change the party and all this other stuff, I wish those people understood that progress, in this case, when there is nothing pushing on the apparatus, it's not done inside the party. I honestly wish they understood that. Because from their standpoint, they're making this argument that enabling is somehow going to make something change. Doing the same thing that you've always done is somehow going to get some kind of magically different result. It's like year after year after year after year, these guys push people to vote for the crappiest and shittiest candidate. And the candidates get shittier and shittier because they can continuously make the argument that the Republican is worse. Now, at some point, I don't know when this is magically supposed to change. You had, based on their theory of the case, Bernie Sanders running in the election, and that guy was shafted. Now, in order to maintain their theory of the case and their idea of the world, they have to usually, lefties even have to come out and say, well, he wasn't really rigged. They just moved the debate schedules. They do this because they want to ensure this thing. If you say, yes, they cheated my candidate, and on top of that, I had the indignity of voting for somebody that I didn't want, it's too much for the conscience to bear. So, lefties, in this case, the ones who support Hillary Clinton, who push for the Democratic Party, who's trying to board the ship and all this other stuff, well, they have a certain idea of the stuff that allows them to maintain this kind of affiliation with the party. Nothing changes as long as they're willing to be complicit and enable the party doing whatever the party wants to do. I don't understand this idea of, if you just pressure them, something will magically change. You just got to pressure them. It's like, what are you talking about? Pressure what? You're going to put somebody in office and then after they're in office, try to get them to change? You've lost all power at that point. Adore Pariah. Again, from the Australian perspective, we had a period of dissonance with the dominant political parties, Labour as our left, Liberal as our right, which created the space for the Green Party to emerge. I would love for the Green Party to emerge. Adore Pariah. The Green Party has enough influence to sell their voter power to a particular party for seats in the House. So that's an interesting one. I agree with you, right? The problem is a little different in the United States, though. You guys have multiple parties. You guys have parliaments. We have a fucked up political system. So in our system, let's say you have two major parties. You may have a Green Party, you may have a Libertarian, you may have Democratic Socialists or whatever. It is few and far between where you have these other parties. Usually it's just Democrats and Republicans. Every so often you get a Green candidate. In our elections, though, you end up with this situation of, I always call it the esoteric other. It's like, I'd vote for this person if I thought other people would vote for this person. So you might have 20% of the people who would vote for Jill Stein. No, it's not that many, but I'm saying, let's say 10%, who might have voted for Jill Stein. But instead they say, ugh, fuck it, I'm just going to vote for Clinton because I want my vote to count, and my vote is not going to count if I do that. I would vote for her if other people would also vote for her. It's this weird thing, man. So you can have this thing where Green Party gets like 1% of the vote. even though you may have a larger section of the public that would have preferred to vote green. Also, in Australian politics, your politicians are not batshit crazy. It's a difference. Like, we have politicians on one side who says there needs to be transvaginal ultrasounds if a woman gets an abortion, meaning the government, the state itself, needs to send somebody to put a rod in a woman's vagina if that woman wants to get an abortion. It's not medically necessary. They're doing it purely to shame the woman, and they're using the state apparatus to do that. Now, if you had that batshit crazy person who's running in an office for governor, what do? Doesn't matter who's on the other side of that batshit crazy person because of how batshit crazy that person is. This is what I mean. This is the quagmire that's American politics. This is not, however bad you think your politics are in other countries, it is not as bad as this. Like, these people are maniacs. You think our foreign policy, you guys think you're terrified of America's terrorism around the globe and everything else. You have no idea how crazy these people are. You have no idea. You're seeing this from the outside looking in. These people are nuts. These maniacs. Edward Morley, right, Trudy. She was polling around 15, but didn't get 1%. Yeah, she didn't even go 1%. But you can kind of understand why. I mean, they ran a scorched earth campaign where they screamed that Donald Trump was going to murder babies and puppies. Their campaign was purely based on this idea of people hate Hillary Clinton, so don't focus on Hillary Clinton. Just focus on how bad Donald Trump is. This creates a certain amount of hysteria around Donald Trump, meaning it scares the shit out of people about Trump. Meaning their campaign was effective, if that makes sense. They lost, yes, but the campaign was effective. So you still got that level of fear and panic into the public that you were trying to get to into the public. You would imagine that you would have a lot of people who would say, I would vote for Joe Stein, but this man is a maniac. Now, the number of people who did vote green, in some cases, was enough to turn the election. But those people would have either stayed home or those people would have voted for Donald Trump. So, not to mention, it's not anybody's vote. People vote for whoever they want to vote for. So, yeah. We have a fuckfest here. Shrawi Kate. Tricito, I'm not certain that Stein would have won if 2/3 who stayed home would have voted. The Electoral College is a corporate feature that is a two parties and two parties only. Yeah, well, like I said, we have a fucked up process, a weird fucked up process that excludes this idea of other parties. And then the parties themselves get in power and then make it more difficult for other parties to get into the process. So it's not, you know, all of these guys are on a debate stage. It's, we're going to constrain who can get on the debate stage. So if you're going to go to in front of the American public, we're going to constrain who gets on the stage. We're going to constrain who America sees in this case. Or the Democrats saying, you know, making this stuff purely dependent on how much money they can raise. So the legitimacy of a candidate is how bought the candidate is. Some of the stuff is just bizarre that the American public just takes it on as being, yeah, that guy's going to raise $1 billion. He's a good candidate. What does him being a sellout and being completely obsequious to the people who are giving him cash have anything to do with him being a genuinely good candidate? What are their metrics for being a good candidate? And what are your metrics for somebody being a good candidate? So it's the Russia BS that keeps them from addressing the actual rigging. Yes. But yeah, and in this case, you have Sanders, the guy who was rigged, coming out saying that it was Russia. I'm making a point of how Orwellian this is. The guy who was rigged, company man, is now coming out and covering for the fact that he was rigged first, and then pointing the finger at Russia, saying that Donald Trump was working with Russia and that Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump in Russia. I mean, this is fucking amazing. This is fucking amazing. And they're going to use the same smears against Bernie Sanders that Bernie Sanders is using against Donald Trump. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. They have to change their names. Green sounds touchy and feely for some. Trudy. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I say this too, and people get mad at me when I say this. Gardner, progressive voice version of this discussion. Is Corbyn good or bad? Answer the poll and watch this TYT clip. That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. God, I hate this fucking mic. My other mic, for whatever reason, I've not been able to get that mic fixed. Cardinal, that's wrong, man. You're punching a kid. You're punching a kid. It's funny, but you're punching a kid. Do you know my wife came in and says, babe, I saw that video. You just like, what would your mama think? When you're punching a kid. Jamal, you need to look at Jeremy Corbyn's breaking news statement regarding the Brexit. I will check it out after this. Yeah, I'll check it out. I did see Prime Minister questions after the Brexit. Guys, and by the way, for my new subscribers, the first few minutes of the videos are usually my spiel. It's me making my point of whatever we're talking about. After that, my interactions with the audience go pretty much anywhere. So it's and maybe I should break those videos up on this because I don't know how many people watch the second part. But just so people know, I mean, usually that's the format that I usually take on. Engage in the topic and then turn around and just engage with the audience. So, paging Mr. Herman, Pee-wee B. Herman. Shit, I broke his mic. Yeah, you broke my mic. That shit was funny though. That shit was funny. Yeah. Oh, by the way, yeah, Tim Floberg, Greenleafs. So you're right. The name is a little weird. So I always made the point that it makes people think of the environment. Like when you think of greens, you think of trees, forests, and those type of things. Now, if my kid needs to eat, or if my mom needs Social Security, or if I need Medicare, am I really thinking about the environment? Now, don't get me wrong. I understand the Green Party goes beyond just the environment. It does. Hands down. And their platform was fucking awesome, which is the reason why I actually voted for Jill Stein. But people's view of politics is like through a straw. It's like you're staring through a straw. They don't necessarily pay attention to this stuff in a way that's overt and that people would be aware of. Meaning they're not going to know what those policies are. Like they're not going to know the individual distinct policies. Those people are raised as a Democrat or Republican and they have their tribal instincts. And then they get into their heads of, well, you can't leave the party system. I mean, you have to, any change that takes place need to take place through the party. So you already have a hurdle right off the bat, just from a cultural standpoint, in the way that they're, you know, this kind of propaganda is built into people's heads and they're programmed into this idea of two parties. And then beyond that point, you have this thing of greens, environment, nature, hippies. I'm just making a point. The name association in and of itself takes you to some weird places, this kind of age of Aquarius, you know, bare-chested in the sun feeling to it. Now, and again, this is not necessarily the Greens, but I'm not necessarily talking about what they are. I'm talking about the image that they portray. It's a hurdle. It's a hurdle. And it's one of those things where Greens can be a little bit offended by this thing of, by saying they're not a real party or something. You are a real party. You just have difficulty connecting with the American audience. The name is a problem. Sorry, the name is a problem. And I am not saying that anything is wrong with the Greens. Like I said, I proudly voted for Jill Stein. And when Jill Stein told that reporter off, I was like, I am proud of voting for that woman. Fucking A. That's the person who I voted for. That's the person I voted for. I'm just saying from the standpoint of somebody who works 40, 50 hours a week. From the standpoint of somebody who is concerned about whether or not they can pay for their kids going to school. They know that bill is like $50,000. For them concerned for the basic necessities of life. I think it's like 60% of the population. If they got a bill for $500, they wouldn't be able to pay it. Most of the country is either poverty wage or poor. Alabama, I saw the thing today, the story today, that Alabama has some of the worst poverty like of any Western nation. I'm trying to get across this thing of you have desperate poverty in the United States, despite this being a very rich country. Now, if I'm looking for a politician, and you guys are telling me that your name is the Greens, and I'm like, yeah, nature is nice, but I have a kid that I need to take care of. I have a wife that I need to take care of. I need to make sure food is on the table. I need to make sure I have a job. Do you get my point? You have all of these things that are on the person's mind that they themselves are looking for political solutions for. And the hurdle for the Greens is just the name by itself, the name association. Now, if the person is engaged in paying attention to politics, that's different. That's different. They'll take that extra step to figure out what it means. But most people aren't. Most people aren't. So, yeah, most people aren't. Most people aren't that engaged. Bob Romero said, JT has his grease paint and polka dot coverall to prove he voted green. Fletcher Daniels, I agreed the whole woke like fake news and normalize as a thing with humans. Sadly, some folks just stop at some achievements, even if it's just mental. Catherine 71, sorry, not a hard decision. Trump or Hillary Clinton, green, easy choice. I didn't think it was easy, but it was a choice I made. I didn't think it was easy. Because, look, like I said, in the same way I say I don't think you have to take away from something to give, like, I don't think you have to take away credit in order to critique something. I don't necessarily think you need to underplay it in order to go through with it. Meaning, I consider Trump was a maniac. I didn't like his temperament. I thought he was fucking insane, not to mention he was running as a Republican. So, I didn't necessarily take that choice lightly. I thought it was somewhat of a difficult choice. It ended up in one of those cases of, well, who do you want to represent your interests, and who do you believe will do a better job representing your interests? And they cheated your guy. They cheated your guy. I mean, at the end of the day, how can you co-sign cheating? I mean, that's and honestly, that's what it boiled down to in many respects. Well, it boiled to two things. A, I can't co-sign cheating right off the bat. That's an undermining of democracy in and of itself. And so it's particularly bitter looking at Sanders make this argument about the quote-unquote Russians undermining democracy with Facebook and Twitter ads, as opposed to them actually changing the apparatus itself in order to gut his campaign while lying about the fact that they were gutting his campaign. Do you know they're in court right now arguing that cheating Bernie Sanders is a First Amendment right? Fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. Love Camden Town. I think I've been to Camden. They sure are fucks have. What? We got to get the damn media re-regulated, damn it. You know, when Corbyn, and that's what fucking like Corbyn. I mean, when he didn't take that lying down, he took that as the media is coming after me while I'm coming after the media. I love that. He said they're concerned about a labor government. They should be concerned about a labor government. Fucking love that. It's like Batman. Lorms, and how do you thwart the drones firing on you with their controllers 4 miles away? Yeah. HK, all you have to do is find someone who isn't bullshitting. How do you find somebody who isn't bullshitting? That's not an easy one. Northwest London rocks. London bless. I like London, man. I think the last time I was in London was back in 2008, I believe. I fucking love London. Love London. Triana be fine. I have unserved Bernie in every way possible. He doesn't call fake news, does he? Unfortunately, not only does he not call fake news, he leans into it. Look, I understand that he feels he needs to do this. I don't think anybody would do this if they didn't have to. If that makes sense. And I'm saying that in a weird way. I don't think anybody would do this if they didn't think they had to. Let's say it that way. I think he honestly, it's one of a few things. Either he honestly believes that Trump is a larger threat, meaning he believes that he needs to align himself with Democrats in order to attack Trump in this way. He needs to align with Democrats to undermine the legitimacy of Donald Trump. Or he believes that in order to get some maniacs to vote for him that were Hillary supporters, that he needs to curry favor with those people, in which case he needs to toe this particular narrative. I have no idea which one it is. And I don't even know if I care that much which one. I don't even know if I care that much. He's given legitimacy to something that he shouldn't give legitimacy to. In that conversation, by the way, when Chuck Todd, Mr. Oblivious, brought that up, he should have kind of made this point that, Chuck, this had no impact on the election, and we really need to get back to issues that affect and the American public care about. They're going to smear you regardless. They're going to smear you regardless. You came out and shamed yourself in the way that you shamed yourself. And immediately they turned around and said, Bernie Sanders is blaming Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders is blaming Hillary Clinton. There is no win scenario, dude. If you're going to stand by a particular point, stand by a point. John Melton. Okay, Jonathan, what do you disagree with me on? Explain. It sounded like RNC does actual democracy better than the Democrats. I don't know about that part, but I feel you. I understand what you're getting at. Yeah, Jonathan, explain. What do you disagree with me on? K. Finnis. Like Jimmy Dore said, Trump in Russia excites their lizard brains. Excites their lizard brain, yeah. Bernie has aligned himself with them, Jonathan Melton. I see. You're making a distinction. Okay, that's fair. So I'm making the point that I think he's doing it because he needs to curry favor in order to run. You're making the point that he's not currying favor. This is just who he is. Is that what I'm getting at? Is that what you're getting at? Bernie does sell books and has stocks and decent paying jobs. 700,000 is a lot, but it's not a lot real estate prices, as they say. I wonder what Nina and Tulsi think about Bernie backing this Russia bullshit. I don't know. I would love to talk to Nina Turner. I would absolutely love to talk to Nina Turner. I try to, I've sent out requests for her. I've sent out requests for Nomika Kantz. I've sent out requests for Zogsby. I've sent out requests for a few people. Because I kind of want to have this conversation on what they're trying to accomplish and whether or not they believe they can accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. And if so, what are the things that are giving them this kind of hope that they're going to be able to accomplish what they said they can accomplish? So far, nobody has hit me back. Nobody has hit me back. I'd love to hear from Tulsi on this. You and I both, Trudy. You and I both. We're just agreeing that progress is inevitable because we've built the reality off of moving forward. Resisting change slows us down, but never stops true change. PT. Tulsi has to see through this Russia bullshit. I can see Nina being a little bit more naive about it. Tim Flobo. Jamal, have you seen the Green Wall Rising debate? I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen the whole thing. People have been telling me about it, though. They've been telling me about it. All right, guys. I'm going to end this because I have one more that I want to do. For those who didn't see the beginning, Caitlin Johnston is going to be here tomorrow. So that should be a damn good interview. She has a new book out called Woke. Woke. Shawari Kate. I love to hear what Nina Turner thinks. I follow her and she is not saying a peep about what she thinks about Bernie Sanders' seeming alignment. Yeah. I agree with you, man. I'm curious. I'm immensely curious. When I was at the People Summit, I had a conversation with Nina Turner, and I said, Nina, what is Sanders doing? I was like, what is he doing? I was like, why is he affiliating himself with these people in this way? I mean, seeing as they cheated him, why on earth is he affiliating and aligning himself with Democrats? And her response was, he thinks he can change him. Now, it didn't seem like she was lying to me. It sounded like she was kind of in this, yeah, I feel where you're coming from, but he thinks that he could change him. Now, I've seen Nina Turner tweet out stuff with third parties and that type of stuff, but I don't necessarily know if she's doing that purely for political ends. This kind of threat of sorts, the specter at the door. I keep saying that the thing that they're concerned about is people fleeing the party, their inability to win seats. The only reason Joe Manchin is on TYT is because Joe Manchin want to pull those people in. He's scared he's going to lose to the Republican. Hell, he may even lose to Paul Swearengin at this point. But she's put that specter out there. Like she's made this kind of allusion to the third party and stuff like that. I don't know how serious she is about it, but she says she says Sanders honestly believes that he can change it. And I have to be honest, at this point, within a year and a few months in, it looks like it's the opposite. The conversation is not about this kind of populist agenda. We're not talking about Medicare for all. We're not talking about college. We're not talking about any of that stuff. It has to be real. Nothing. We're talking about Trump and Russia and Bernie Sanders and Russia and Facebook and Twitter ads. That's literally the conversation we're having in American politics. It's fucking absurd. It's immensely absurd. Nina is a strategist and makes no mistake. She is on a leash like the rest of them. Oh, cynical Gardno. Cynical Gardno. Fletcher Daniels. I just hope we can move faster in weeding out those who want to stay safe and stagnant versus those who want true change and unification of our citizens, which can help us shift the political or societal fuck-ups. I agree with you, man. I just don't know how to change this. Like, I'm stuck with this kind of paradigm of the world. My paradigm could be wrong, but it's the way I see the world. Human beings function in many respects based on the society that those human beings are in. If you have school shootings, it's not necessarily looking at the individual saying the kid was mentally ill. You look at the society. Why is your society producing people who go into schools and shoot those schools up? Why is your society creating this level of poverty? Why is your society creating this level of stress? You know, like, you look at the society itself to try to ask questions about why is it doing these things? Why is it producing these outcomes? You can't look at a human being and say that human being is a separate and distinct thing. No, if you have a lot of people that's flowing in a particular path, you have to look at the society itself. They're not flowing in that path just arbitrarily. Even if those people think that they're thinking, functioning beings, they are. But the things that they're thinking about, how they're responding to that stuff, is essentially is in relation to the society in some way. Either they're pushing back against it or they're accepting certain things. But either way, you're still pushing back or accepting certain things of the mainstream or of that a stream of thought, implicit or explicit, things put inside of you. If you're having an epidemic of people going into schools and shooting those schools up, if you're having an epidemic of people being shot in general, if you have an epidemic of people being put in prison, at some point you need to ask the question of what are the drivers in the society that are causing these particular behaviors in our particular society, and stop purely looking at this as the individual. You would never solve the issue if you just look at it purely from an individual standpoint, because it's not an individual thing. So stuck in this thing of, if the society has certain drivers, certain things that drive the behavior of people in the society itself, how do you change the society? It's almost like the society has to run its course. It has to run out of steam before you can actually get something different, in which case we're talking about a collapse before it changes into something fundamentally different than what it is now. It's like, I don't know how to turn the corner. Like, I don't have the wherewithal to see how it changes, because that's where I'm at. So change is inevitable. If not a progressive, you're regressive. Edward Morley. It's not that change is not inevitable. Change always takes place. The question is always, what kind of change? Change is innocuous. It's not innocuous. That's not the word I'm looking for. Change is the word is somewhat benign. I mean, the effect that it can have on the individual itself is different. Meaning, an individual in a particular context can deal with a change, and that change can be positive or negative in relation to the person themselves. But the change itself doesn't really, saying that everything changes doesn't really mean anything. Yes, everything changes. It's constant. I mean, it just is what it is. I'm more so talking about, how do you change it in a way that it doesn't collapse? Meaning, can you get the positive changes without the whole thing coming to a collapse before actually getting those positive changes? Meaning, do you turn the car before you go off the cliff? That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying change. Yes, you can change the speed that the car is going. I'm talking about changing the direction of the car is going in its entirety. Can you do that before it crashes? That's what I mean by change. That's what I mean by change. Hello, fellow progressives. Can't believe I just discovered Jamal. Melissa H. Well, welcome, Melissa H. I'm glad you discovered me too. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Now, that being said, Melissa, I'm sorry, because I'm about to end this one since I've been on for like an hour. But I do have another one coming up. So, at least I think I do. I have one or two more that I want to do before ending it. And I also want to catch that thing for Corbyn, his response to the Brexit. I would say pay attention to the UK, man. The UK is fucking fascinating with the Brexit stuff going on. I did see Corbyn's respond to Theresa May immediately after this kind of Brexit thing, where they were hammering her with one question after the next that she had a difficult time answering. So I will check that out. I follow British politics. I enjoy British politics. I'll also try to get Michael Songmaker Ziesling. I'll check him out. And I may see you guys in a few minutes. So about 20 minutes. Alright guys, thank you for showing up. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody. Stephanie Chateau, time for us to move to the UK. HK, well done. Thank you, HK. Thank you. And you too, Stephanie. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super cash, guys. I absolutely appreciate it. It immensely helps. I gotta be honest, this, for some reason, I feel like this was not a great video. But I'm probably gonna look at it later and think it was okay. I think for me, it's the videos get long, but the videos get long because I try to talk to the audience at a certain point, and I honestly hope people understand that. Like, there's a difference between a live video versus me putting a video. If I'm doing a live video, usually I'm engaging the audience. So it's like the first 15, 20 minutes is just me engaging, me saying whatever I need to say, my own spiel. But I give the audience an opportunity to speak their piece. Sometimes it's you're a fucking asshole, and other times it's you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's somewhere in between. But I find that to be a more productive way of communicating as opposed to just kind of waiting until, you know, the comment section. So I'm going to end this. I will probably see you guys in about 20 more minutes. And thank you all for showing up. So if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks, guys. And again, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, HK. You guys are immensely appreciated. And where is